Hello everybody, welcome back to another edition of Bushes on the Trail. I'm Alan. This time Christy and I are in Chillicothe, Ohio, about an hour south of the state capital of Columbus, and we are hiking in the Great Seal State Park. We will be hiking a mountain. Yes, a mountain in Ohio. Who knew? Well, we did. There are certain mountains that are named in Ohio. You'll find out why. And this one is called Sugarloaf Mountain. And this is an area where the great Shawnee Native American tribe used to roam. Some pretty cool pictures. You'll find out some history about why there are technically mountains in Ohio. So I hope you stick around. Here we are today at the Great Seal State Park in Chillicothe, Ohio, or just north of Chillicothe, Ohio, about 45 minutes south of downtown Columbus, Ohio, the state capital. So if you're in the area, take a little trek about an hour south of Columbus and check out this trail. And today we will be doing the Sugarloaf Mountain Trail. It's a short trail, 2.1 miles. Supposed to be, so trails are color-coded and blazed. Trails are strenuous, so know your limits. We'll see how strenuous this is. We're doing a short one because we have to make a trek up to Columbus from here. So it'll be interesting to see how tough this trail really is. Okay, and here we are at the Great Seal State Park, and we are heading up Sugarloaf Mountain. So we will go this way and we'll see how strenuous this is. There's the yellow blaze here. Okay, it says follow the yellow blazes, and tiny yellow blazes along with blue. We will walk this way and see what happens. We are close to a campground area right over here. The trees are starting to change. And it's pretty wide open to the left, so right now the first part of the trail is pretty easy. And as we are about not quite 2/10 of a mile in, we run across some horse dung, horse crap. So yeah, this is also used by horses along this trail apparently. And you can smell it, not a mile away, but at least a quarter mile away. All right, about 3/10 of a mile in, we come to what they call Section A, and I'll try to show you here. Location A. And this is where it splits off. We can either go left up the hill, directly up the mountain to our left, or to the right, which will go around and up on the back side. I think we're going right just to start off, so make sure we're nice and limber, and then we'll come down this side here to our left. See here? See what happens. Okay, 3/10 of a mile in, we go to the campground. We will go to the right here or up to the left. This is part of the loop. We are going to continue to the right at the moment. And yes, this is part horse trail, and it is also part bike path as well. We saw a couple mountain bikers already going through this area. And if you look, there's some blue blazes off in the distance, shortly after that A sign. And here are the yellow blazes for Sugarloaf Mountain. Now the blue blazes are a different trail. I think it's called the Shawnee trail. I have to double check. It's a longer path that goes a different direction through the Great Seal State Park. The trees here are just starting to change colors. A lot of yellows. Haven't seen a lot of the reds yet. A few off in the distance, but here in about another week or so, this will be really pretty. But at that time, we will be in the Smoky Mountains. All right, a little over a half mile in, and you go from wide open forest to more of a denser growth. Again, trees are starting to turn. But so far, I mean, the trail's been really easy. A few ups and downs, but nothing major. And here we come up on a down tree across the path. Well, the good news is there'll be any horses or bikes through here.
Lots of firewood.
Yeah, there's a lot of firewood here. However, no place to camp on the trail. Now, we left from the campsites, and actually they look pretty good, and we will probably do a walkthrough of that area too, just for future reference. Yeah, it's starting to sprinkle a little bit, but you know what happens when you hike and it rains? Well, you get wet. Okay, and something to note, just like all trails that you're going to find, there are going to be a lot of people out here on the trail the later in the afternoon you get. So if you want to avoid some of the crowds, now's the time to come out early. All right, now we've seen quite a few hikers and mountain bikers through this trail. And again, it's a nice fall day, probably upper 60s, a little bit of wind, a little bit of sprinkling of rain, nothing huge, but the leaves, as you'll see here in a moment, are starting to change and look really pretty. And as I stated, there the leaves are starting to change up along the tops of the trees. And there's a squirrel right there. A little squirrel went up the hillside and he's gone up the tree. We are not quite a mile in, and yeah, horses have been on here. Okay, and after about a mile in, we come to hiking trail point B. So if we continue following the blue blaze, which is the Shawnee Ridge, 6.3 miles. But since we're doing a shorter one, we're doing the Sugarloaf Mountain version, and we're about 0.8 miles on this portion of the loop, which is yellow on the map. And uphill we go. As we go up the hill here, there are quite a few trees down. We've already had to step over 2 or 3 on this portion of the climb. You see, there are more down along the way. This trail, hell, doesn't look like it's been cleared much recently, so not a lot of trail maintenance going on this portion of the trail. But it is getting steep, as you can hear, so I start to labor with my breath a little bit. There's not any switchbacks, pretty much straight up the hill. And way up there is where we're going. You can see the trail goes straight up over that ridge line to a false summit, it looks like, and then on up to up in that area, way up there. As I mentioned before, right here, as you see it up in front of you, are one of those false summits. That is not the top of the mountain. We still have to continue on past that point. And this is pretty steep. We are almost about halfway up the side of the mountain at this point. You know, Christy has stopped for just a moment to make some adjustments to her gear. And you can see how far we've come up to this point. So we still have a little ways to go. And finally, here we are at the summit of Sugarloaf Mountain. This mountain is about 1,200 feet above sea level. And it is a place where the legendary Shawnee leader Tecumseh used to come to contemplate and think because of how isolated he could be at this spot. Now, when you peek through some of the trees, you can see some pretty nice views. Right now, with all of the leaf cover, the views are few and far between. You have to sort of weave your way in between trees to see them. I have been told, or I've actually researched and read, that the views up here once the leaves are gone are really nice. So Christy and I may make another trip up here after all the leaves have fallen. And the descent down starts to get steep really quick. Now, to this point, 1 4/10 of a mile into the hike, not as steep as it was there for roughly a half of a mile, but interesting. If it's like this the rest of the way down, I would almost prefer coming up on the steeper side and doing the counterclockwise version versus the clockwise version. So we'll let you know at the end. And here we are, as you can see, Christy trying to maneuver her way, almost falling. Let's see if we can catch a fall and go viral. Oh, nope, apparently not. Here we go, and I will not be recording going down this steep 40% grade. And just so you can realize how steep that is, here it is, I'm looking level. Now, level with the ground, that's where my eye level is when I stand straight. And there's Christy halfway down the hill up there, and she is approximately 20 yards distance, maybe, away from me. It's just really steep. And to show you what we're walking on, it's just loose gravel and dirt. You can see right here, it's really loose. And we are still going downhill. We've been going down for about a little over a quarter of a mile, almost 3/10 of a mile so far. But now it's starting to level off a little bit. So roughly after the summit, there's about quarter to close to 3/10 of a mile where the actual steepness of the hike is pretty tricky. I'm gonna say it's at least 40% grade. I'll check it later, but it's pretty steep. The footing is not the greatest. So it's a lot of technical stuff where you put your feet and your poles, but you should be fine if you just take your time. And then about 1 3/4 of a mile, we come to this spot. Yellow blaze, you can see with the arrow below it, goes this way. And down into this little ravine. Okay, something to keep in mind if you do come out here, bring water. We have crossed a couple of dry creek beds, sorry, easy for me to say. And there's no water, so there's nothing out here to actually harvest your own water out of a creek bed. There's not even any puddles. It has been fairly dry, but again, it's not a huge mountain. It's only, I have to check the elevation, but it's not much over 1,100, 1,200 feet in elevation. So there's not a huge like spring or anything that's going to be coming through to provide you with any water. So make sure you pack some in. Again, 2-mile hike, but you will be very thankful that you brought water. Portions of this is very steep, but it's not a horrible hike so far. Again, there are portions where you're going to have to catch your breath, but it's not bad. And just as I was saying, levels down gets decently easy. We just hit another 2/10 of a mile incline, and we're still going up. Not as strenuous and hard as the one earlier, but we did have to stop, catch our breath a little bit. And here we are back. We went that way, counterclockwise, section A. Turn back towards the campground to head back. And there we are, the Sugarloaf Mountain Trail. Okay, as we wrap up this portion of the trail here, actually it's not too bad. I wouldn't call it necessarily overall strenuous. I mean, there are portions that are strenuous, some uphill, some technical places where you have to put your feet. I'd call it moderately hard. Would that be a safe bet, Chris? Yeah, probably moderately hard.
Strenuous at times.
Strenuous at times is a good point, especially going uphill. Partially, I mean, it's well over 1/4 to a half mile up in certain spaces, roughly 30 to 40% grade or higher. And the footing's a little tricky, so you will stop a couple times. But again, make sure you bring water. There's no place to get water out here, especially in the warmer months. It's a great place here in the fall because it's nice and cool, a little breeze. We may come back once the leaves fall off the trees, see what kind of views we have. But not a bad hike. If you're in the Chillicothe, Ohio area, checking out the Sugarloaf Mountain Trail at the Great Seal State Park. It's not bad. Here we are, 2.25 miles, 2 1/4 miles, basically, and we can see the campgrounds from the trail. I think there's some primitive sites on the other side. Well, you can see somebody with a tent there. Some RV places, there's a big RV here, some RV places, and fifth wheels. Now, one thing I did hear, and Christy pointed out, and I have to double check, but I believe it is the campgrounds are closed December through 1st of March, but the hiking trail might be open in the winter months. I just don't think you can access it via the campgrounds. I have to check. So if you decide to come out here like sometime in December, if there's a warm day, or early or late February if it's warm, you may want to check the website for the Great Seal State Park and make sure that there's access to the Sugarloaf Mountain Trail and the campgrounds to see when they open. Here we are. And back to the parking lot. After finishing the hike, Christy and I decided to drive around the campgrounds to give you an idea what's available at the Great Seal State Park campgrounds just outside of the trailhead of the Sugarloaf Mountain Loop. What do you do after a hike? Well, it's time to eat, and we do so in Columbus, Ohio at BJ's Brew House and Restaurant. We meet our daughter Lauren, and we have some fantastic food and brews. A little surprised to have a named mountain in Ohio like Sugarloaf Mountain? Well, actually, there are technically several mountains in Ohio, and here's why. According to the USGS, or United States Geological Survey, a mountain in the United States was defined as a geographic feature rising above 1,000 feet. However, this height designation was dropped in the 1970s. Today, there is no official height designation for a mountain in the United States. However, the unofficial height characteristic by today's standards is typically 2,000 feet or more. Now, there are other characteristics which also are accepted to help designate a mountain. Number one, a natural mound of earth with a very steep rise in landscape that is often abrupt in comparison to its surroundings. If you've ever seen Sugarloaf Mountain from afar, it checks this box. Number two, a defined summit or peak. Check. We've been on the summit and it is defined. You know you're on the summit. Number three, often has a name. It's named Sugarloaf Mountain. Check. Number four, can be challenging to climb. Christy and I have hiked up the slope of this mountain and you have to stop along the way. It is challenging to hike. Now, with these designations met, and since Sugarloaf was named before the government quit using the 1,000-foot designation for distinguishing the difference between a hill and a mountain, this 1,200-foot plus tall mound of earth bears the name Sugarloaf Mountain. So technically, there are mountains in Ohio. And if you're ever in South Central Ohio, check out the Great Seal State Park and hike Sugarloaf Mountain. Visit the place where the mighty Shawnee warrior Tecumseh once roamed. And then, once you're done, perhaps, go out to dinner, enjoy some of your favorite cuisine, and talk about the memories you just made and created with the ones you love. Hey, thanks for watching. If you don't mind, give us a thumbs up, hit the like button. It really helps people find this video on YouTube. Also, you can follow us on Facebook and on Instagram at Bushes on the Trail. And hit the subscribe button if you don't mind. That way you don't miss any of our other episodes as they come out. And if for some reason you're having problems hitting that subscribe button, well, you probably don't have a YouTube account, so sign up. It's free. Just follow the prompts, and then you can subscribe to this channel, and you won't miss any episodes that come out right here at Bushes on the Trail.